Hello and welcome back to Unreal Engine 5 Blueprint Mastery, Door Systems and Interactive Portals. Previously, we explained a few things about the timeline and how it works. We added it to our tutorial map level blueprint. We used the begin play event, we used the delay, and we played the timeline to set the actor rotation based on a lerp of a rotator. We created a variable for our new rotation, and we also inside the timeline created a flow track from 0 to 1 using 0.5 seconds. And we also clicked on the use last keyframe, so the length of the timeline is irrelevant to how long it lasts. It takes the last keyframe. Now, this happens when we begin play. But what we want to do is this to happen when the player goes near the door. How would we do this? We have this collision detection system, which means we have a system to understand when an object, let's say for example our player, is colliding with something. For example, the wall. Why can't we go outside these walls? It's not that they're solid or something. We tell to the game, to the program, that for our pawn, for this character, this behaves as solid. For example, it stops me from moving across. So how is this happening? Let's go to our quickly add to the project button and search for a trigger box. Let's bring it here. And let's check its details. I have to make it a little bit bigger so we can see some things. When we search the details, there is a specific tab called collisions. Here it is. And this tab, we can see these collision presets. So each object in Unreal, like the wall, the collision trigger, the capsule, the player pawn when it spawns, has its own presets. We have a way to assign an object type that defines what type of object is whatever we have set it to be. You can see this one is world dynamic. Let's put this to custom so we can change a little bit this. You can see custom, I can change how this trigger behaves beyond its original preset. Like the original preset was trigger, I think. Yeah, this is trigger. And with custom, I can say, no, you know what? You're gonna block wall statics, or you're gonna block pawns. If I press block pawns, press play, we will find up. Here it is. No, yeah, here it is. See, I cannot move past it. It is blocking the pawn. Whereas if it was overlapping the pawn, then I would just go through it. Let me see where the collision is. Let's make this visible. If I go here and press visibility, no, actually hidden in game. If I unclick this, I can see this on the map. So this, you just happen to work at the same time. We haven't programmed this yet. So another thing about collisions is that they are usually invisible. They are always hidden in game. So for example, our door will have this trigger in front of it, and it will be responsible for opening and actually for just opening the door. Let's just make it a little bit bigger. Let's move it here. Maybe a little bit bigger, wider. Yeah, I think that's a nice place. So let's go use this collision. I have the trigger selected. I'm gonna go to the level blueprint. I'm gonna right click and create a reference to the trigger box. I'm gonna compile. Now, how do we use this trigger box? Well, as we saw on the collision presets, there is three main responses: overlap, block, and ignore. Let's put this back to trigger collision defaults. Alrighty. So what we want is not when ignoring, not when blocking, because we don't care about these channels and they're pretty much set off. But we want when we are overlapping to do something, when probably the player overlaps with this. We can check player is overlapping, yes. Let's go back to our trigger box and type draw cable and type overlap. And we can see a bunch of commands for this. We can get overlapping actors. We can get overlapping components, which is different than actors. We can, is overlapping actor, we can ask, is it overlapping our player? But we can see some other things, assign and bind over here. Assigned on actor begin overlap, assign on actor end overlap, bind event on actor begin overlap, and bind event on actor end overlap. There isn't really much difference between assign and bind. They both use bind basically. Let's call assign first. Assign on actor begin overlap. And let's also call bind. So bind overlap. Bind event on actor begin overlap. As you can see, they both call bind. The difference is that assign creates also an event for us, where if we call bind, we have to create the event ourselves. And to do that, we just draw from event and do a custom event. Why we draw from event? Because binding on a trigger box requires specific inputs. This is not just any custom event. It is named custom event, but it is not any custom. You can see it has these two inputs as here, as it has this one also. If I create a custom event on its own, you see that it has nothing. I have to create these inputs myself. But if I do create this, these inputs, like I'm adding two inputs, they should be of type actor object reference. You'll see that I am able now to connect it here. I can compile and it's working, because what this requires is basically these two actor object references. So since I created them, this is all fine. If I remove them, let's undo. So yeah, you see it doesn't have the inputs, so it cannot delegate. It's not compatible. Anyway, let's continue of explaining on what these two actor object references are. Overlap actor means our trigger box, basically, whatever trigger box collision we have used. Other actor is the actor which overlapped. So what we need to do right now is delete all this and move begin play a little bit further. We're going to disconnect this. I'm going to use Alt and click to disconnect it. And I'm going to connect this here. So when the game begins, bind something to this trigger box when it begins overlap. So that's something. What should it be? First of all, we need to ask if the other actor is the player. To do that, to test if the other actor is the player, there are various ways. Right now, we're going to do it with a casting node, which is a little bit more expensive than other ways, but it's a good way to show casting. So what is casting? Let's first call it. I'm going to call cast to third person character. Basically, it's asking, are you this? The object that is incoming is the object that we are asking for. So we are casting to it. The reason we are casting to it is usually because we want some information from that object. Again, there are other ways better than casting to do that in bigger scale, but for us right now, it won't create any problem. So, like for example, if I wanted the velocity of the character, I could type here velocity, get velocity, and I would get the velocity of the third person character. Or something more specific, like if I wanted to check get capsule collision. capsule component. Get capsule component, which is a character specific. We know that every character has a capsule, so I can get that information from the character. Now, if we had anything instance specific in this character, like for example, have an HP, we could get the HP of that character from here. Whereas if we didn't do that, I couldn't get, let's say, capsule again. There is no get capsule component because the other actor might be any type of actor. But with casting, we are asking cast to third person. Are you a third person character? And if you are, so if the cast succeeds, then we can get some information out of it. If the cast fails, it means that it's not what we are asking for. So we're going to ask, what is colliding the other character, the third person character? If yes, then we're just gonna play the timeline. And that would be it. Let's compile. And let's go near the door. And the door opened. I think this is enough for this one. On the next one, we're gonna do the closing of the door. We're gonna put something here to step here, we open the door, step here, close the door. But that is for this one. I'm gonna see you on the next. Goodbye.